Hi, everybody. It's Nicole Dyer Twyman here with Kat Cole, and we are so excited to join you guys, or for you guys to join us today. Kat, say hi to
Hello,
everybody.
everyone.
It's so great to be here with the Leapfroggers live every Tuesday, and it's such an honor to get the opportunity to meet with Kat Cole. Man, I was reading up on you. Yes, let me grab mine. We're leapfroggers for life.
Yes.
So I was reading up on who you are and your story and what you do. And man, I was just absolutely so impressed with all that you have done. But I think, you know what, before we get into the meat of your career, would you mind sharing with those who may be watching just a little bit about who's Kat? Where does she live? Like, just give us a little bit about who you are, just as a person, if you wouldn't mind
Yeah,
indulging us.
absolutely. So I live in Atlanta, Georgia, the
Oh,
A,
in the
ATL. I love it here. I've been here for 20 years, spent several years commuting between Atlanta and New York. I'm married. I have a fabulous 11-month-old little boy named
oh,
Ocean. So
Ocean. I
baby
love
Ocean
that
is at
name.
home. Married the love of my life. We met. We had a one-night stand. We proposed to each other within 2 weeks. We tattooed our rings 6 months later and got married at Burning Man and then made a baby 6 months later in Africa. So
What a story.
yeah,
Let me take some notes just on that.
that's the
So, Ocean
story.
Cole.
Ocean Cole Irvin. Yep. And I was born in Jacksonville, Florida. Child of a single parent alcoholic father, helped raise my two sisters. I have an amazing, inspirational mom that is a leapfrogger in her own way, and moved to Atlanta when I was 20 after a crazy career moving up in the restaurant and franchising business. So that's the short version.
Oh yeah, there's so much meat to that right there. You just dropped so many bombs on me that I'm finding it hard not to delve just into what you just shared. The baby in Africa and the tattoos and wow. So so thank you so much, Kat, for sharing just a little bit about yourselves. I'm gonna just take a moment to see who's joined us already online. Hey Natalie, Natalie's online.
Hi.
Hi, you
Mika,
guys. If you're
Mika.
out there with us, go ahead and leave us a comment and click the like button, click the love button. Let Kat know you're watching. Let me know
Yeah.
that you're watching and you're enjoying what we're sharing, because we're going to be sharing tons of nuggets today
Right.
about Kat and her story, and just moving forward with her business and franchising and all of that. So let's go ahead and get started, Kat.
Awesome. Let's do it.
So your company, Focus Brands, offers affordable franchise business opportunity. And you know, our girl Natalie loves franchises. It's a
Right.
great model where you are going into business for yourself, but not by yourself. And that's your
Absolutely.
quote, which I
Yes.
absolutely love myself. And so tell us a little bit about why franchises can be an important option for entrepreneurs.
I think franchising as an option, first, if you're looking to accelerate your experience with systems, processes, brand building, franchises, at least the successful ones, have this down in a serious formula. And it's a bit of a hack in and of itself. So even if you have very little experience, exploring a franchise on its own is educational. Just doing your homework and interviewing with franchise companies will teach you a lot about how they structure, how they communicate, how they sell, how they position the profitability of their business. So just being a student of it is helpful as an entrepreneur or a new business person. Then actually getting into franchising, you really get the full experience of learning systems and structures that have not only been built by the franchisor, the people who own the brand and who are responsible for stewarding it around the world, but franchise systems are impacted by the franchisees, the individual small business owners that are in it. We have thousands of franchisees across our 6, now 7 brands at Focus Brands, and we are better as a franchisor. Our systems are better, our unit level economics are better, not just because we're good at what we do, because we listen to and learn from our independent business owners in our network. So becoming part of a franchise, you're plugging into the institutional knowledge of so many independent entrepreneurs and entrepreneurial-minded small business people, not just the collective corporation. So those are just a few reasons that getting into franchising is a great way to hack starting your own business.
Oh my goodness. That's absolutely amazing. It's a great hack in and of itself to just take the time to interview some of the franchisors just so that you can understand how they're structured.
That's right.
Because it's the key is in the structure and in the repetitive steps and how things are created. So that is an absolutely awesome tip just in and of itself, right in the first 5 minutes of our conversation. So if we were to do this interview of the franchisors, how would you recommend that we go about figuring out who it is we should interview?
Well, like anything, it's pretty easy to go just a few clicks into the Googles and find a lot. There are franchise evaluation websites that are evaluated by franchisees. One's called Blue Mau Mau. Weird name, but it's where franchisees share their experience with franchisors. Some of it's good, some of it's not good. It's sort of a peer review site, kind of the glass door of franchising, if you will. But then you could just go look at the International Franchising Association. It's a good place to find high quality, well-ranked, well-experienced and established franchisors who have been in the game for a while. And you can ask a few very simple questions. What has been your closure rate? What's your success rate of your franchisees and why? How many of your existing franchisees are growing? If existing franchisees are growing, the business model must be pretty solid. If their growth is only coming from attracting new bees to the honey, then maybe there's something going on with the people who already know the business that's causing them not to want to grow. And then just talking to other franchisees, go to your local franchise location and ask them questions. Ask about the owner. When you go into a restaurant or many of these service places or gyms, a lot of them are franchised, and there's a sign. It has to be by law at the front that says this location is independently owned and operated by a franchisee. Ask for the owner's information. Ask if you can buy them coffee, and ask them about their experience and their advice. No better group to learn from than successful franchisees.
Oh man, these are great tips. One of my favorite gyms is Orange Theory Fitness, and I know for sure that that's a franchised
right. Our private equity firm owns them. They're fantastic.
Wow, do you guys? That's absolutely awesome. I go there 5-6 times a week, and the experience, I've gone to several studios, and the experience is consistent from studio to studio, even though it's managed by different individuals. And I think that is the key to franchising, right? To being able to duplicate and replicate the same tasks with ease, as long as you have a certain level of employee. Now, Kat, when you think about the franchise model versus just your small business, your regular small business, I'm just going to go in by myself or for myself. If you were to compare those, why don't you do that for us, actually? Why don't you compare those, if you don't mind, for us, and then help us to understand why you feel the franchise way is the best way to go?
Yeah, look, there's pros and cons to both. Certainly when you sign up with a franchise, if they're a good one, you have a few things that are already done for you. One, the business model has already been vetted. It's successful in multiple cities, and in the case of some of our brands, multiple countries. So you're essentially de-risking your small business opportunity because it's been proven in many different environments with various headwinds and conditions. There is marketing expertise. In most cases, there's also already brand awareness. So you're not having to explain to your local customers or community what is Cinnabon or what is Jamba Juice. They know because the franchisor has been marketing it, and other franchisees have been growing around the world.
Yes.
The downside is it's not your brand. It's your business. They're your employees. But if you wanted to serve hamburgers at Cinnabon, we ain't going to let you.
No, it's not going to happen.
That's right. And so there is less control on all sides, but there is more consistency, less risk, not no risk. There's risk starting any business, even a franchise.
Yes.
But there's less, and it's more proven, and there is existing infrastructure and training and support to help you on your journey. When you start on your own, hopefully you have mentors, you follow the hacks in LEAPFROG, so you're not completely alone. You're never completely alone, especially if you are a woman and a part of the LEAPFROG network.
That's right.
But it is more lonely, and there is less support, and you are at it on your own, but you have complete control.
Yes.
And so it's your capital in both cases. So how are they similar? It's your capital building the infrastructure, whatever it is, brick and mortar location, website if it's an e-commerce business, the gym if it's a gym. It's your capital going to work in both cases. But someone else built and owns the brand in franchising, and you build and own the brand when you start your own brand in business. So that's where they're similar, but they start to branch off.
Yeah.
Both have their merits.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. I feel like this is amazing advice from an expert. We're getting some amazing hacks, you guys. So I hope you are taking notes. And with that, Kat, I want to just pause for a second and read some of the comments because I see some.
Nina. What's up, Nina?
Hey.
Hi.
Yeah, there's Nina, and she's basically saying de-risking approaches are a great way to learn the ropes and grow. And my hack, chapter 49, that's what being a tier 2 supplier is all about.
Yes.
All right, Nina, thank you for that. Yes. And so Natalie's here, and she's asking, what was the name of the website? Was it Mau Mau? I know you said Blue.
It's Blue Mau Mau, MAU.
Blue Mau Mau. And then there was the other one about the international.
IFA. Yeah, IFA.org, I think, the International Franchise Association. That's a great one-stop shop for best franchises, for rankings, things like that.
Awesome. So you guys help me out and drop those links for me in the comments for those who might be watching. I know I have Javanka here helping as well. So Joe, if you wouldn't mind dropping those links for us so that others can benefit from the great links that she's sharing. Thank you guys so very much. I appreciate it. Yeah, leapfroggers are in the house deep for this call. So I'm excited about it. So let's keep it going. So can you share with us, Kat, the process of transitioning? Now, this is a big one, right? Transitioning from being a dropout. It says here that you were a dropout.
Yep.
I'm confused by that. I don't see a dropout before me, but from a dropout to a multi-billion with a B dollar executive. Share with us about how Ocean's mom is rocking it like this.
You know, it's a combination of many of what people will read in LEAPFROG. It's a combination of believing in what's possible for me, because I had a chance to see women being successful as I grew up. I had many mentors, men and women, younger and older, but a lot of women who were amazing examples that just helped me see what was possible for myself. I believe that giving people access to others who look like them, who come from where they come from, having diversity in leadership and their stories being told is definitely a part of my journey, because how do you know to go somewhere if you don't even think it's possible for yourself?
Exactly.
And so that's a big piece of how I went from college dropout to here, because I saw many examples. I had a mentor call me once, a woman who just took an interest in me early in my career, who called occasionally to check on me. And she's the one who told me that there was even a possibility to go back to school. So I dropped out. I don't have a bachelor's, but I do have an MBA and an honorary doctorate. And she called me and said, you know, it's not easy, but it's possible. If you're smart enough, if you can pass the GMAT with a higher entrance score than what they require, and if you get enough recommendation letters from reputable leaders, they might consider letting you in. It's been done before, but it's rare. I didn't care about the rare part. I just needed to know it was done before. And I said, that's it. And so I applied to every single executive MBA program in the state of Georgia, Georgia State, Emory, Georgia Tech, all of them, got into the programs, chose Georgia State, and got an MBA. And the MBA is a tiny piece that helped formalize my language of business. It didn't get me to where I am. I got me to where I am. People who gave me a chance got me to where I am.
Yeah.
But it's certainly, I want to use this forum to tell people things like that are possible if you need it, if you want it.
That's
if
amazing.
But the other way that I moved up from that college dropout to where I am now is I never forgot and I never forget that the customer and the employee are at the center of everything. And the higher up you go, the more distant you are from them and the more conscious your efforts have to be around staying close to the action and close to the transaction. So you're not clouded by the layers of interpretation that come to you and plugged into where the customer is and where they're going. And that confidence, that certainty, that clarity has allowed me to continue to make edgy and progressive decisions in the business that aren't just duplicating our processes and aren't protectionist of our old ways, but rather are focused on what really matters. Employee experience and the customer. And that,
which is the customer. Yeah, not your own thoughts and not your own ideas, right? Because ultimately we're serving. We're all in the business to absolutely serve. That is absolutely awesome. And did I hear you right? You said you applied to multiple schools and you had multiple acceptances?
Yep.
Did I hear that?
Indeed.
Oh my gosh. That's awesome. Because not only did I think it was not possible, right? But to have multiple acceptances, that's crazy and unheard of. Congratulations on that for sure.
Thank you. And well, good for them for having creative opportunities for people who don't fit the traditional mold. More institutions, more companies should think about that. And I'd say that's the other piece of how I evolved on my journey is I remembered people that gave me a chance as a young executive, as the only woman, as the only ex, fill in the blank, youngest, least experience, no formal education for a while. And I sift through the traditional requirements to get at experience and capabilities. And so my ability to build teams, to give people a chance who wouldn't ordinarily be seen, has also been a contribution to building great teams. No leader does amazing things without amazing teams.
That's true.
And I can build amazing teams because I don't look in the traditional places for those team members. And I want access to all talent, to all people, even if they don't look like, sound like, have a resume like, fill in the blank, because I didn't at one time. And that's been a big part of me being a different kind of leader that cuts through the bullshit of the typical corporate world.
That's right. The bullshit. We cutting it through. That's right. All the way through. Where's Ocean and you're talking like this? No, I'm kidding.
So bad. Bad mommy. # bad mommy.
Oh no, it's all good. It's all good. So let's keep going, Kat. I'm loving your answers and your responses, and I hope that those who are watching are gleaning some of this great information on how you can defy the negative, defy what you would already think is not possible and just keep pushing. That just seems to be a theme in these live interviews, though. Nathalie said it, now you're saying it. And what a consistent theme also, in addition to just pushing past what you think would otherwise be a no, pushing past the no to the yeses, is also just being scrappy. Right? So I hear Nathalie saying scrappy. You said a synonym to scrappy. It's just about just getting out there and doing what you need to do. Now,
I have a question from Nolwenn, and she says, what advice do I have for someone who feels they don't have a chance if they don't have a formal education? So 2 pieces of advice. One, the good news is the world is moving beyond that. Some industries faster than others. So my first piece of advice is don't let it get in your head. It might be more in your head than in other people's head.
Else's, yes.
So don't let that voice become front of mind. It might be back of mind. It's a question. It's natural. Don't let it become your trope, your talk track, your theme that's in your head. So that's the first thing. The world is moving past it. There are so many examples and almost a glorification of people who have non-traditional backgrounds doing great things in business. So that's one. The second is prove it. If you've got abilities, prove it. Go offer your services to someone for free briefly just to get a business case, or get a smaller version of what you do. Get scrappy. Get a practical example that you can show people instead of saying, I have nothing by way of experience, but I want you to trust me and believe in me. Go do something that evidences that someone should and can take a chance on you and that you're going to step up with them. Natalie says, price points for franchisees, do you need millions of dollars? No. There are, if you go to franchise.org, the IFA's website, there is such a range of franchising and the capital investment required. Some have $0 required upfront. Those tend to be more of the service franchises. You don't need to build a physical place. That's a way to get away from having a need for access to capital. They already have built websites and marketing infrastructure. So, and you can search it by capital investment required. You can go all the way up to things like McDonald's or large restaurants that require, Chick-fil-A, that require a lot of money up front to build.
Yeah.
Take longer to pay back, but man, when they pay back, do they ever? So it really depends on your access to capital. So that's about choosing franchises with a range of capital requirements from $0 to millions. Then there are creative ways to get access to the funding required. So many franchisors, us included, want more diverse franchisees. So there are special funding mechanisms. There are franchise fee rebate programs because we want to attract more women, more people of color, more veterans, more. We want more and want to find every way to lower the barriers. And the best franchisors do that. And many banks and local community banks have special programs as well. It's easier to get that special access to capital if you're pairing yourself with a franchise that's well proven.
Yeah.
You don't have a lot of access to capital and you aren't proven as a business person and the brand is too new, that might be a little bit of a struggle. So you've got to balance out the risk profile for a lender and for a franchisor if you're taking the step for the first time. But you don't need millions of dollars. In most cases, the liquid asset requirements are $300,000 to $500,000 for the smaller business franchises. And that's still a lot of money, but there again are some that are $0 because they're service franchises.
Okay, so we're already talking about the monies needed to get started with a franchise. Now, what else is needed other than capital?
So first and foremost, outside of capital, is the desire and ability to operate. There are people that have a lot of money, but I don't want them anywhere near my brand if they don't have the ability to hire, train, and retain other humans. If they're not going to either do the work or build the team that does the work that the business requires. The money only gets you through the door in some cases, but it can actually be your downfall if you put a lot of money in and you don't have the commensurate respect for what it takes to have employees, to pay them fair wages, to employ them in a place and in a way that makes them proud, to listen to your customers and stay close to them, to do the work. In the restaurant business, we work when other people play. It's a lifestyle choice. We're open on weekends. We're open at night. That's a lifestyle choice. Yeah. And not everyone is excited about that. That might not be your jam. And that means you wouldn't franchise in my industry, but you might in others. So the ability to and the desire to operate with excellence is on par with the need to have access to whatever capital is required.
And it sounds like the underlying tone in which you're speaking is also speaking directly to the heart of core values, right? Understanding what your own core values are, and does that align with this franchisor? And it's really an interview process, it sounds like. Yeah. So you're going through this whole process to see if your lifestyle matches the brand that you were trying to franchise. So, all right. So then the next question we have is, where do you see the future of franchises headed in the short term and then also in the long term?
So in the short term, I see franchises continuing to grow because you have many people that are leaving the corporate world and saying, I want a different life. You know, I don't want to work for the man. I don't want to work for someone else. Right. I want to get in there and have my own small business, but I want to de-risk it. And so I think franchising will continue to grow. It's one of the top drivers of our economic growth, small businesses, and franchising as a huge chunk of the small business growth. And you're also seeing more diverse franchisees come into the fold. And for that reason alone, it will continue to grow. Where it goes long term will be very interesting globally, but I'll talk about just the United States. And it has a lot to do with what's going on in our government and what regulations and laws look like for franchising. Franchisors do not employ the employees of franchisees. That's the whole nature of it. You grow with the franchisee's capital. The employees are their employees, and we build the brand. We have our own corporate stores with our own employees. But there are all kinds of things going on with franchise law that could affect the future of franchising. So that's just franchising as a contract, as a business concept. I would also say the things affecting franchising have to do with what's affecting brands. And there is clearly an evolution towards smaller and local businesses happening in terms of what we, the consumer, prefer.
Yeah.
Love, trust. So might there be a future where there are more mini franchises that still have the power of franchising, but they're not as large.
Yeah.
They're not the national chain, but rather the hyper regional chain or brand. I think that could be interesting, and that creates more opportunity for people who start as franchisees.
Yeah.
Actually become franchisors. And that's dope, right? Because you're in the business, you have the experience of a franchisee, you learn it from the franchisee side, and then you decide yourself to help bring in and grow a concept through franchising. It's a serious decision to make. Yeah. But I think over time there will be, just like the rest of the world, there will be a fracturing and sort of a micro version of franchising that will only enrich the overall franchising opportunities available in the market.
Okay, so that regional model that you're speaking of, does that exist today at all?
I mean, it does in the sense that franchises that are early in their growth, right, are small. So they might be in just Ohio, or they might be in just Florida. So there are some of those, but it's not because they're designing themselves to be contained. Exactly. It's because they're early in their journey. But there's more access to creating a brand and a business with technology and leapfrog hacks. And so my guess is there might be more popping up. But taking the responsibility of being a franchisor is a crazy serious responsibility. Not only are you responsible for yourself and your business, but you're responsible for building a brand that many, in my case, thousands of people invest their life savings in. And it is a blessing and a curse at the same time. It is a huge weight and a great privilege, and it's not for everyone.
Not for everyone. Oh my goodness, Kat. So I just have a question. So how do you balance it all? I mean, it sounds like, you're an amazing wife, a wonderful mom, and a mogul. How? And then you're doing it looking like this. This is out of control, people. Do you see this lady? I should not expect this, right?
Get closer, awesome. Wrinkles.
No, go ahead, get on out of here. And then I'm looking at your accessories. You're all trendy and cute. What is going on, Kat? How is it that you're able to do this? That's what we really want to know. Hack that for us. What's going on?
It's like anything. You make time for the things that are most important to you, and you can't be great at everything. I remember I'm only one person. I give myself permission to change. I give myself permission to learn. I give myself permission to say no with grace and love, because no to one thing means a much better yes to other things. And I try to stay connected to my values. I reflect. I practice this concept called the Hotshot Rule, where I ask myself, if a badass took over my seat tomorrow, what's one thing they would do differently, better than me? And because they wouldn't have my clouded perspective of my progress. It would be the first day in my seat, the first day in my relationship, first day in my job. And they would see today, not as I see it. I see today as my life is better than it was 3 years ago. My business is better than it was 3 years ago. A new person in my seat is going to think today is the worst it will ever be, because they are going to improve.
Yeah.
We go through exercises where I pause, I reflect, I set the intention to improve, and I commit to one action to do something that is a result of looking at my life or my relationship or my business with fresh eyes in the way a new person would. And I ask myself, why can't that be me? And then I take action immediately. I make the phone call, I make the apology, I say thank you. I hire the person. I fire the person. I express whatever I need to do. I get on the plane. Whatever I need to do, I do that one action, and then I share it. I share it with, if it's personal, I share it with my husband. If it's, or whoever it affects. If it's business, I share it with my team. So there's an expression of vulnerability, but it's building a muscle of, I'm always learning. I'm always looking to do something better. That's not bad. That's seeking progress. That's courage to change.
Yeah.
And so there's no such thing as balance. It's never perfectly balanced.
No.
It's harmony. It's a song. It's a dance.
Oh, I love that.
And I just try not to be too hard on myself and try to stay rooted to my values and ask myself, is how I'm spending my time reflective of my priorities? Sometimes it isn't, because stuff gets in the way.
Yeah.
Either I work too much, or I'm not working enough, or I am not focusing on the new biggest priority. I solved yesterday's biggest problem, but there's a new biggest problem, and maybe I'm not seeing it because it all seems too small in comparison to what I've dealt with in the past. So those are things I go through to help me energized and motivated. But at the end of the day, I'm just not too hard on myself. Life is tough. Life is short. I focus on things that matter. I remember the short list of things that matter the most. And it's not always work. And it's definitely family and health and spirituality. And then I channel that into being badass.
Yeah. Yeah. No, man, that was a ton, which you just dropped on us. You dropped some crazy hacks on us. And the thing that stood out for me personally the most was, it's not about balance. It's never balanced. It's about harmony. Man, that's a t-shirt. Okay. that right there is a t-shirt, Kat. I love that. I'm totally connected to that. I have one more question for you as well. We're already at this 10:30 hour. I can't believe that was the fastest 30 minutes ever on the planet. But I'm just interested in hearing more about your routines, because you're all into the systems and the processes, and probably know a lot about Kaizen and all of these other process improvement things. But I'm more interested in your personal processes, your rituals. There are hacks that talk about rituals as well. And the book LEAPFROG Hacks just has all the right hacks. Let me just tell you. So I'm just interested in knowing about your morning ritual. If that's okay with you, if you don't mind sharing, if that's not too personal.
No, not at all. It's drink a ton of water. Sometimes water with lemon, sometimes hot, sometimes room temperature. Just drink a lot of water. Hydrate.
Yeah.
And spend that precious time with my family. Coffee mornings are our time. It's the time with my husband. It's the time I get to see my baby when he wakes up and give him food. And on our Instagram, we film him being obsessed with us pouring coffee. And it's a silly thing, but it's so grounding. It's my grounding. My day is better. Several days out of a month, my husband and I make coffee dates in the morning. It gets our mind right. So we leave the house, we go have coffee in the morning, and I am twice as productive on days that we do that. I schedule coffee meetings with people that I want to learn from, and it might be an hour away from work, but I'm working the whole way back to the office, and I'm twice as productive and much more intelligent and sharp because I have been colored by that person. And so that mind writing, I read about this once, mind writing, of spending the morning doing things that sharpen you. I love to use the morning as the tool that it is for me. I'm a morning person, and I use it as the tool that it can be for me and for others. And then occasionally trying to get some stretching and some yoga. I do butt squeezes when I do my hair, and leg lifts.
Not the butt squeezes. You're just squeezing your butt while you're doing your hair?
Yeah, leg lifts, whatever I can. If my arms are busy at the top, my legs are working out at the bottom. If my legs are busy, I'll walk around and, lift weights. But try to squeeze it in whenever I can during the work week, and on weekends, really prioritizing long walks, fitness, and time with family. It's pretty simple, but it's what grounds me.
Yeah, that sounds like some amazing harmony you have going on over there in your life. And I just have one more question. I know I said that was the last one, but listen, every time you talk, it's like, oh my God, I have one more thing. So you talked about mentors and maybe having those coffee sessions in the morning, iron sharpening iron, basically. Who are some of your mentors? My God, who are you going to for advice?
You know what? The whole concept of mentors to me has always, especially because I grew up, again, child of a single parent alcoholic father, worked at Hooters the early part of my career. People weren't exactly lining up to be my mentor. And I had to realize that mentors are available in tiny mentoring moments. I just see mentors as my peers, people who were younger or newer than me, people who were more senior than me. And I would just ask for 2 minutes of advice. Can I get you a coffee while we're walking through the hall, while we're on break? Have you ever dealt with this? If so, what did you learn? I believe the learning is available everywhere. And then as I have many mentoring moments with some people, it evolves into a closer relationship that starts to be a bit more meaningful and a bit more intentional, that looks something like a mentor. But it's so heavy to think about saying, will you be my mentor? Or can I be your mentor? But realizing mentoring moments are available all the time, everywhere, in just minutes, an email, a text. I always tell people, if you want mentoring from me, ask me a really specific question on any platform and you will get my experience. If you ask me this broad ass question on LinkedIn or on Twitter, where I can only use so many characters like, do you have advice? Well, kind of hard for me to be effective, and it's actually not thoughtful about making it easy for me to provide insight. But if you specifically say, I'm dealing with this, have you dealt with it? How would you handle it? I can provide a mentoring moment to almost anyone so much of the time.
Yeah.
And I've learned to appreciate that. But yes, there have been people who those mentoring moments have turned into mentors. And I would say Nathalie, who's one of my dearest friends and soul sister and the author of LEAPFROG Hacks, has become a mentor in a way because I trust her. I learn from her perspective. I go to her and know I'm going to get the truth and clarity. And I have so many other people, a guy named Phil Hickey who took an interest in me when I was a volunteer, a woman named Bonnie Reinhardt that first recommended me as a general manager when I was a waitress to go open restaurants around the world. The list kind of goes on. And I think the theme outside of believing mentoring moments are everywhere is that those people saw me in a moment or a series of moments giving and leading related to something they cared about or were involved in. And later down the road, they felt compelled to reciprocate. So I gave first, I invested first, I helped first. And that happened once or many times. And then an opportunity came up for them to say, oh yeah, I have seen her lead, or you know what, I have someone I'd recommend for that board, or to pick up the phone and say, hey, I saw the work you did earlier and I read that you're considering this. Might I offer some advice? So planting those seeds early and often is important to benefiting from mentoring-like relationships when you least expect it.
Oh my goodness gracious. This whole conversation has been mind shifting because you think of things quite differently, right? Because I'm asking about mentors in the traditional sense, and you talk about the mentoring moments, not just the one long-term relationship with one or two individual, but there's opportunities to have mentoring moments, laterally up and down. So I appreciate that perspective. That's absolutely awesome.
When you don't have a trust fund, when you don't have privilege, when you don't have access to all these things that so many have access to, that's how you have to look at the world. You have to find the crack that gets you in because there's not a beautifully paved road with lights.
Yeah, no, there totally isn't. Well, we have come to the end of our time together, and I have so enjoyed this time. Kat, is there anything you want to leave our listeners with today before we depart?
Yeah, one of my favorite quotes, that's a version of what my mom says to me all the time, which is, don't forget where you came from ever. It's your roots, but never let it solely define you. Don't let your roots be your anchor. Let them be your fuel.
I like that. I love that. Oh, Kat, I'm going to be following you on Twitter, and I'm going to transcribe this interview. This was great. I got to go back and listen to some of this.
Thank
you so much for your time today.
Thank you so much. Love what you are building too.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Have a great day, Kat. Bye, guys.
Bye, everyone. Thanks for joining.